All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Other Side of the Struggle. Guys, I have with you somebody that I've been actually following for a little while. She might not know that, to be
I
honest
didn't
with
know
you.
that.
But I have. I've watched her on Facebook and I have seen like her grow, and we've been talking just a little bit previous to starting this podcast, and she's been telling me a little bit about her story. And I can't tell you how excited I am to have her on the podcast today. We have with us Kaye Walker. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I knew. I have a couple of different Kellys that I I know.
You got the right name.
I got the right name. But I have been following you. I promise. But guys, I love her energy. This is the thing that I can tell you about Kelly. As I've watched her and I'm getting to know her, as we've been doing this Rejuvenate You and planning this together, and we're going to be speaking there together. I've watched Kelly. I love her energy, and I think you guys are going to love her just as much as I do. And especially as we talk about changing our focus. And now this can be like one of the hardest things for women to do when, or anyone to do when you've been in depression and betrayal and you're focusing so much on the hurt. It's
Mhm.
almost kind of like it eventually becomes kind of precious to you. And so when you finally let that go and you start to shift your focus, sometimes that can be really offensive, you know, in a way. It really can. I know, like, I remember the first time somebody told me, for things to change, I must change. For things to get better, I must get better.
Yeah.
I was in an event kind of similar to you. I wanted to huck a tomato at his face. I was so mad. I was like, how dare you? Like, you don't know me, right? But
Right.
that's right. He was right. But I'm going to just kind of take a step back for a little bit. I'm going to let Kelly share her story with you guys, kind of a little bit about what she was telling me, and where she was at to where she's at now. So uh, I'm really excited to have her, you guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So tell us a little bit about your story, Kelly.
All right. Well, when I was pregnant, I'll start there. This was 2005. I got pregnant. I had a really hard pregnancy, and we had been trying to get pregnant for years. So he was our miracle baby, right?
Mhm.
And I had a lot of problems. I had panic attacks constantly because I couldn't breathe because he was growing into my lung space.
I know that
And
feeling.
right, and you can't really take any of the psychotic drugs or whatever. I wasn't psychotic. I felt psychotic though sometimes because I was in constant state of panic. It was a horrible pregnancy, right? So as soon as he's born, they put me on this cocktail of antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, and they said, "Don't worry, it'll only be a month or two, and then we'll take you off and you'll be fine." Well, a month or two, we tried to go off of them. The panic attacks were terrible. My husband was scared of me, and he said, "Please go back on them." And so I went back on them. And for 12 years, I stayed on these drugs I was supposed to be on for 2 months. The problem with antidepressants is that it turns you numb. It doesn't really solve anything, it just makes it so you don't care about anything anymore. And I was at the point where I was just totally checked out of life. I was addicted to escape. That's how I like to describe it. I played video games all night instead of going to bed. I'd get up, I'd go to work, I'd zombie my way through work. Then I'd come home, I'd get on my video game and I'd play it until I had to go to sleep. So I wasn't being a good mom, I wasn't being a good wife, I was not being a good employee, and I should not have been surprised when one day in January 2017 I was surprised with a firing. And so I went home and really ratcheted up my depression. And I became a really good wallower. And I call it my circling the drain time. I felt like that was all I was good for. I was not providing financially. I wasn't being a good mom to my son. I wasn't being a good housewife or wife or anything. And, now I wasn't making money. So I thought, what is the point of me? And I just settled into that depression and I just wallowed in it. And then I got an email about 3 months later, invited me to this 3-day life-changing seminar. And I was like, oh, that sounds disgusting. No, thank you. Because I wanted to stay in my, comfy low vibration, right?
Right. I get
Oh,
it.
but a voice kept telling me, Kelly, you could probably use some life changing. I think you should go. So I did eventually decide to go. And I showed up that day. For the first time in a week, I took a shower and put on something other than pajamas. Got in the car, drove to Salt Lake, an hour drive. And as I entered the hallway where the event was, the energy of it almost knocked me over. And because my vibration was so low at the time, and that vibration was so high, I physically felt it. Like I almost literally got knocked backwards. And I almost turned around because it was so much. But that little voice is powerful. It said, you need to go in there and do it. So I went in and people were dancing and hugging and talking to everybody. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to throw up. Well, I went and sat in a corner hoping nobody would even look at me. But, at these kind of events, you cannot get away with that. And so it was 3 days of just, deep connection with people, staring into people's eyes for 3 minutes, all of these activities that we did to, make connections with ourselves and with other people. And the thing that I took away from that event, which by the way, I loved so much by the end of it, I'll turn around. The thing I take away from that is that I had been focusing all of my energy on how miserable I was, how terrible my life was, how bad I was doing life, how bad I was at adulting. And I just kept getting more and more and more of that because what you focus on grows. And I was focusing on how horrible I was as a person. And so I was attracting all of this horrible into my life. And at this event, when I made that connection finally, I mean, I wish I had made that a lot earlier. They should teach that in school, by the way.
Yeah, they should. I agree. Yeah.
Man. But when I realized it, it was like I had been given magical powers because all I had to do was change what I focused on and things around me would change. And I started experimenting with this and playing with this idea. And I was making lists of things that I liked about my life, which, started really small. And I started making gratitude lists and I started finding ways to serve other people. And everything in my life changed so drastically. It was crazy. And so I would go to these events, and there was another person that did events like this, and I would go to 2 every month. And by the end of 8 months of going to these, I was a completely different person. And I realized I could never go back to being a graphic designer. And I thought, well, what do I really want to do? And I was scared to admit that what I really wanted to do was to be that person on stage, telling people my story and giving them these tools that they'd never thought of using or had never internalized or ever even heard of and completely changed their lives. And so that's what I did. I went to every speaker training. I spent thousands of my husband's dollars on getting trained and certified in everything. And I just started speaking. I ended up going to this contest that other people were doing. I was just in the audience and there was a spot open for the next month's contest. And so I ended up signing up for that. That was my first big speaking experience and it was amazing. And that was in December of 2017. So I got fired in January. And by 2017, I spoke for the first time. And then by 2019, I was speaking in London. I spoke in London 3 times
So cool.
on manifesting clients to businesswomen. So my life was so different, like unrecognizable in such a good way. And it all happened. Literally, the one thing I changed that set everything rolling was changing what I focused on.
Yeah. And I totally get this story. Okay, yours is very similar to mine, because, I've dealt with childhood trauma, I've dealt with marital trauma, and a lot of relational trauma, colleague trauma, like workplace trauma, like you name it, I've seen it, dealt with it, done it, right?
Right.
And, from my viewpoint, it was just I had bought into what everybody else was telling me that I was worthless,
Mm.
right? And so I totally get this. And, like 2 suicide attempts,
Oh,
right? Um, and severe depression. I never went on the medication and stuff, but like I was really, really depressed. And
yeah.
very similar, like not being able to connect to my kids, not being able to connect to my husband, and getting on, computer games and like just checking out. Like it's so similar to mine, like so
Get it?
similar.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, once we change that focus, woo, like
Yeah.
what's possible?
Right.
I mean, for me, I did go to like some different trainings. I got into doTERRA, and like of course there's like all kinds of like spiritual growth stuff there, right? And but I remember like the day that I literally I came unglued at God. Like I I yelled at him, I swore at him, I cursed him to the skies. I did everything, everybody tells you not to do when you're speaking to the Lord. I did it all. And when I realized like after I, collapsed onto the floor in a puddle of snot and tears, um, and I'm looking back thinking this really was funny. It was really serious then.
Right.
But I remember him asking me if I was ready to do his will,
Mm.
right? And this is like the kicker. Um, Before that felt very controlling, like I have to do everything God's way.
Oh, yeah.
You know
I
what
can
I mean?
control issues. Totally.
Yeah. Because I'd been controlled my whole life and I didn't want to be
Yeah.
controlled more, right?
Right.
But what I've realized is doing things God's way is really actually doing things my way,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Because the person I am now, and like you're saying, he got me to focus on things that were true. He got me to focus on truth and like my core truth, like who I truly, truly am, who he created me to be. And that took me having to stop getting distracted, by all of the negative and actually seeing the colors, you know what I mean, in life.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, like, becoming a betrayal trauma coach was never something I talked about in kindergarten, right? Like, it was
Right.
not the thing that I wrote down that I wanted to be, right? And I still remember the day when I realized I had healed, and the Lord's like, now go teach that. And I was like, me?
Oh,
Like, are, are you sure? Like you do know who you're talking to, right?
my gosh.
So I totally get this. I totally get this. You know? So,
Yes.
going from feeling so broken and so used and so like life is meaningless, life is pointless. Like what am I even here for, right?
What is the point of me?
Yeah, what is the point?
Yeah.
What is the point of me? Going from that to, you know, spending all your husband's money to realizing you're worth it, realizing like your potential and like actually truly stepping into that because now you have a very successful speaking business and coaching business, right?
Right.
And you really do create hope in other people. And so what were the things you had to focus on instead?
I had to focus on what I wanted instead of what I didn't want. Because that my default mode back before was to focus on what I didn't want. And actually sitting down and deciding, where do I want to be? What do I want to accomplish? Who do I want to be? How do I want to help others? Getting that clarity and that vision, that was that was not easy. That was it seemed so crazy and out of reach. What I really, really wanted to do, like, I really wanted to be like Tony Robbins, the female Tony Robbins, right? That's what I wanted to be. And that seemed so insane and out of reach. So I would step it down a little. Well, I'd step it down a lot, not a little bit. And I would say, well, what could I do now? And then I would set small goals. And one of the things I learned from I had, of course, I hired so many coaches over the last 6 years. I always have coaches. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the best things one of them taught me was keeping a success journal where you focus on what you did right today. That shifted my thinking so much because, I'm such a perfectionist. If something I did isn't perfect, like it kills me. I get so mad at myself for it. So to shift into looking for things that I did right or things that I did that at least weren't terrible, because sometimes that's how I had to start out. Well, this wasn't a complete disaster, so I'll put it on the list. But keeping that success journal was amazing for me. That was game changer because you find what you look for.
Yeah, you
It was
truly do.
awesome. That's like magical superpowers right there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. As you're talking about that, like I think I love bringing scripture into, my life and my teachings and stuff like that. And I love about like, the parable of the widow's mite. When she when or no, like the 10 pieces of silver and the one that goes missing, right? And she like searches the entire house. She's pulling up floorboards trying to find that little piece of silver, and she
Right.
finally finds it, right? That value. And
Uh-huh.
like you can think about that and being like, oh yeah, the lost sheep, the one that goes astray, and then like we celebrate when they come back, but we don't ever really take that into ourselves. Like, what if we find the value,
Yeah.
right? What if we're finding our own value? Like, what if we're the one that comes back,
Right.
right? What if we're the one that gets it? What if we're the one who everybody else is being like total dingle-schnards, around you, and you're the one that's like in the eye of the storm, like totally calm. Like what if? And it takes, like you're saying, focusing on the possibility, focusing on what you actually want.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people get scared of that.
Oh yeah.
You know, like the idea that, oh my gosh, I can create six figures? Like what? Without like somebody actually telling me I have to go to their office and do it. Like I can actually create six figures and help other people do the same and like be happy and have
Right.
relationships that support them. Like what? Right?
Right. And then the fear that if you do it, what if you then lose it?
Yeah.
I think that really stops people because you'll fall so much farther than if you only tried a little bit. You'd only fall a little bit. But if you go for those big goals of making 100,000 a year, doing a job you love, helping people change their lives. What if you mess up? It'll be so
Right.
much worse than if you had never tried at all. That is a huge fear.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And then like, what are you gonna have to let go of?
Yeah.
Right? I can tell you, like, from my own personal experience, like how terrifying it was to let go of control.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because if I let go of control, then all of a sudden, like, my husband can do whatever he wants, and I don't want him to do whatever he wants. Like that hurts, right? I don't
Right.
like that. That doesn't feel good. And I want him to do what I want him to do. And I had to let that go.
That's so hard to do.
And
Good job.
it's yeah, and it's so crazy, like one of the things that I tell people all the time is like, what if the thing you are terrified to sacrifice is actually the thing that brings you exactly what it is you want?
Well, and I think it usually is.
Mhm.
That's why you're scared to sacrifice it because you've got the adversary saying, oh, you've got to hang on to this or else.
Mhm.
But
Right?
God's saying, please let it go so I can help you move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's amazing like what he does. So I do want to also talk to another piece here because this is something that I find really interesting because you said that you spent thousands of your husband's money, right?
Yeah.
And I know like, when you're going from depression, feeling like you're broken and like you're not worth it and all those things,
Mhm.
you want to be a good spouse, you want to be a good partner, you want to be all these things.
Right.
And like this is something that I know a lot of women struggle with, like actually spending money on themselves to get the result that they want. So
Yeah.
what did you have to think in order to give yourself that ability to move forward with?
It was a shift into believing if I invested in myself, the rewards would be exponential. I would be 10 times better, 100 times better, more effective. And I believed that they would work. I believed that the programs I wanted to buy and the coaches I wanted to hire would give me the results I wanted. Like I felt it deep in my core. But the money was terrifying because I'd been fired. I was not making money anymore. We were I made almost as much as him. And so basically our income got cut in half.
Mm,
And now here I'm wanting to buy thousands of dollars worth of coaching. And I was actually surprised how open he was to it. He really wanted me to be happy. He really wanted me to follow this path and see where it went because obviously my other path wasn't working. So he
right.
was actually really supportive. I didn't have to talk him in very hard to doing things, to spending money. A few times I had to convince him why I thought it would work, but most of the time he was like, you know what? If you feel it in your heart that it's the right decision and God's telling you to do it, we'll make it work. I don't know how, but we'll make it work. So the fear of not becoming the person I wanted to be became more scary to me than figuring out how to pay it off.
I love that. And it's so that's like an anchoring concept right there.
Absolutely.
Like, is it worth spending that kind of money on, or is it worth staying in the same place you're at for another month, 10 months, year, 10 years, right? Because it's like you were saying, you had done this for 12 years. 12 years. And at some point, like, when are we just done,
Right?
right? And
Ugh,
like I totally understand what you're saying too. Like, I think, like, definitely for me, the Lord was my coach for the longest time, right? He really helped me for like a year and a half get into like a place where, I realized that what he taught worked, really worked, like better than therapy, better than anything else that I had tried. It worked. And, but as I step into coaching, and wanting to increase my success and increase my results and stuff, I've spent thousands of dollars on coaching as well,
Yeah,
right? And it's really interesting what happens. And this is kind of what you're saying is like the best thing you can invest in if you want to see crazy returns on your investment is yourself.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's scary to people. I know that. I mean, because I sell a pretty high ticket item.
Yeah, I do too.
People are, they're scared it's not going to work for them. I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah, I've seen it work for other people, but I'm special in a bad way. I'm special, but in a bad way. It's not going to work on me because there's something fundamentally wrong with me. So that's a big thing I had to work on myself, being special in a bad way. And so now I recognize it in other people, and I'm so fascinated by that, feeling special in a bad way. But if you can overcome that, everything else gets a lot easier. And the money, it's easier to spend the money if
Mm.
you can believe that you're going to benefit and become a better person from it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't be special in a bad way.
Yeah.
Don't identify with that. That's not healthy.
Right? Well, and the cool thing about this is like, we really do live in the age of information, like we do have colleges, we've got YouTube, like there's lots of different places where you can go learn stuff, but at the same time, I've been through college, I've been through therapy, but
Mhm.
I have never seen the results that I have wanted like I have through coaching.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's because like these are not people that have learned something from a textbook. And I'm not saying like I've got fantastic therapist friends that
Right.
really do get it, right? But these are people that have gotten the result that you're wanting and can show you the exact same path that they took so you can have the
Right.
same thing. Like in
Exactly.
an expedited way. And like what a wonderful thing to
I
have. You know what
know.
I mean?
Yeah.
It really is. It really is. Okay. So if we could pick one thing to focus on, the one thing to change, you know, to help someone like really seriously like pull themselves out of the mud, right? Like
Right.
what is that branch? Like what would you say it would be?
I know this sounds so cliche, but it's cliche because it's true, is gratitude.
Mm,
Look at what you have in your life already. Focus on the good that you've already got. Because what you focus on grows. If you focus on
mhm.
gratitude, you grow more things to be grateful for in your life. And I feel like that's an easy thing for someone in the pit that like it's super effective, but also simple practice. Like 3 things a day. Get a new journal, open it up, and make yourself come up with 3 things you're grateful for. I started with 7. And I'll tell you what, it was hard for me to come up with 7 things at first.
I
But
get that.
it grew. My capacity to find gratitude grew over time. But seriously, anyone I see that is just in the pit, that is always my go to advice because it is the most powerful thing you can do in the shortest amount of time per day and the shortest amount of effort. It's the most bang for the buck I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like one of the things, like it's free. That's one of the free things you can start doing right now to start coaching yourself out of this, right? Like, um, I gotta say, like, I love this idea of gratitude because it anchors you into life.
Yeah.
And not just crappy life, but a really, really good life. That's a major anchor.
Yeah.
And I look at it kind of like this, like, I dealt with childhood trauma.
Mm.
I dealt with marital trauma, all these traumas, and I've talked about it in this podcast. I just talked about it at the beginning of this particular podcast, right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. That's really interesting. Um, when I started implementing this gratitude practice, I kind of realized that everything I had gone through was necessary for me to
Yes.
step into my mission and purpose,
Right?
right? Like, can you imagine? Yeah, like mind blown, right? Like, here is God. He's handing me a soggy box that I'm sure he pulled out of the sewer, right? And he's asking me to trust him and open it, and I'm like, oh gosh, like, what is that dripping from it, right?
Yes, I
But
know.
as I sit there and I open it up and I pull out this $80 billion diamond, I'm like, that was worth it, right?
Yes.
It is. And that's kind of what gratitude does for us. It helps us realize that maybe we're actually living our mission and purpose. Because had you not gone through what you went through, you would
Mhm.
have no ability to teach the way you teach.
No, not at all.
And same thing with me. Like, if I hadn't understood betrayal trauma and how to heal it, I would be very silly trying to talk about betrayal trauma, right?
Right.
It would be incredibly silly. But
Right.
yet our struggles give us a perspective, a very
Mhm.
unique perspective that is
Absolutely.
needed right now.
Yeah, it's so true.
Like what if we can actually be grateful not just for the things that are going good,
Yeah.
but the crap.
Yes. Because the crap is for your ultimate good.
It is.
It's part of your journey and your development. And without it, you could never become the amazing person you are helping other people.
Hmm.
So,
Because
yeah.
you get it. You understand very well
Yes.
what this feels like, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, powerful stuff. Powerful, powerful stuff. Okay. So tell us what you're doing at Rejuvenate You, Kelly.
I am going to be talking a little bit about manifesting and about sharing your message because I manifested becoming an international speaker. So, manifesting and speaking have always kind of been intertwined with me.
Mm,
So, I'm excited to help people pull that message out of themselves, look at it, get it pretty, get it formatted, get it ready to share with the world, and then turn it into a monetizable business. So I'm going to be talking about that, developing your message, finding a way to share it, especially if you own a business or if you're a coach. If you're a coach or a business owner, you are automatically a speaker.
mm-hmm.
Like you can't not speak.
Yeah.
You got to
Right?
tell people what you do. You've got to tell people
Right?
about your business. You are absolutely a speaker the minute you start a business. So that's what I'm
Yeah.
going to be focusing on.
Awesome. Awesome. And one last question, especially in the manifestation area. I know that there's a lot of women out there that are trying to manifest more money. What is one thing they can do?
Oh man. Here's what I have found with especially beginning manifesting. If you want to manifest money, you have to have a very specific use for the money decided upon.
Mm,
So figure out something that you want to spend money on. Get super detailed about what that thing is, why it's going to benefit your life, how you're going to feel when you get that thing. You leave the money completely out of it. You focus on getting that thing. For me, it's always travel. If I want to manifest a trip, the money shows up like that. So pick something you're super excited about in your life that takes money to buy. Just figure out the amount. That's the only money part you need. The rest of it, you just get super excited about that thing. I have a manifesting formula. You follow the formula every day on that thing you want, and the money will show up. That is the easiest way to manifest money.
and it works.
It
I can tell
totally
you
works.
that. Like, yes, I whenever I focus on like actually getting to coach clients and see them have like these massive breakthroughs, it shows up. Thinking about going to Australia to see my coach Kushla, right? It's
Yes.
starting to show up, and like building onto my home and like doing all these things and like creating charities and like actually focus on these things. This is when money actually starts to show up.
Yeah,
And again, another way to change our focus.
absolutely.
So awesome. Kelly, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Did you have a freebie that you're offering as well?
I have several freebies. I have a speaking freebie and a manifesting freebie.
Okay. So where do people find you so they can get either or both?
You know what? The easiest way to find me is on Facebook and it's just Kelly K Walker. K is spelled Kaye, so
Mm-hmm.
that might be tricky. So make sure you spell K right, and then just send me a message, and I'll send you both freebies. I had
Awesome.
I did have a whole cool website set up, and it got hacked, and I have not rebuilt it yet.
No,
Otherwise, I would just send them there. I know it's very sad.
that is really.
I asked myself, why did I manifest that? And then I realized it's because I wanted to make a better website. So
Ah,
I'm doing it the hard way. Apparently, even experts at manifesting still manifest the hard way sometimes.
I get that. I can, yeah, I get that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So just, yeah, or email me, Kelly at kellykwalker.com and say,
Okay.
give me your freebie.
Hey, love it. Man, I'm gonna have to watch myself. I just barely put my website together and I'm like, no, I do not want to get hacked.
It's not fun. Yeah, don't manifest that.
No, I'm not manifesting that. That's staying away. So, all right, my loves, go check out Kelly. Come see us at Rejuvenate You. I do have free tickets
Yay.
for anyone that's wanting to come and join the Unashamed Image program now. I have been chatting about that. That's at the very beginning um of the podcast and the intro. So if you guys are interested in kicking, any shame and guilt to the curb,
Mm,
if you really want to live with
yes.
confidence, kicking that gaslighting off to the curb, building better boundaries, living a life that you love, full of manifesting, focusing on the things you love, all the things that Kelly and I are talking about, come also shoot me a message. I've got free tickets for Rejuvenate You if you guys are interested in coming.
And then they get to see us both speak on stage.
I
But
know, right?
mhm.
Yes, 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 yes. I'm actually a breakout speaker, but that's okay.
That's awesome.
It is. It is. I
It'll
would have
be
been
more
on.
excellent.
I was close to being on stage, but I somebody else got the last spot just barely before me, so
Oh, shoot.
it's okay.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yep, it does. I agree. I agree. All right, my loves, come see us. And until next week, from my heart to your heart, I'll see you on the other side, guys. Bye.
Bye.